Awesome. Welcome. I'm going to pull up the slides and we'll get started. Before we get started, I wanted to welcome everyone like James. I'm Melissa. I oversee grants and community engagement here at ArtsBuild. We're going to go through the artist work grant and open it up for questions and comments at the end. You're welcome to put in the chat comments as well. Questions. Give me just a second. Okay. Can everybody see the slides? Just give a thumbs up if we're good. Awesome. Thank you. So as I said, I'm Melissa. I oversee grants and community engagement here at ArtsBuild. We're really excited about the opening of Artist Work. It's potentially the final round of this grant program. And so this is very momentous. We've had 3 previous rounds that were very successful in engaging community and artists and all the things. This first slide is a mural on the Kinley Hotel. Bria and Alicia finished this during some of the previous rounds of Artist Work. It's beautiful. If you haven't seen it, you should ride by there and take a gander. Before we jump knee deep into the grant and the guidelines and things of that nature, we do want to thank funding partners. Without their support, this grant program would not be here. So we want to thank Lyndhurst and Footprint, as well as individual donors. They have made this possible. So thank you very much. We appreciate the economic support to push forward this grant. And so the agenda for today is we did our welcome. I see a lot of familiar faces on the call and some unfamiliar faces, which is awesome because it means we're getting new and energy into the fold of ArtsBuild, and we always welcome that. So welcome everybody. What we're going to go over is James is going to talk about ArtsBuild. We're going to, and the grant in general. And then we're going to welcome in Peggy Douglas. She's a playwright plus so much more. She's a previous recipient of the Artist Work Grant. Then I'm going to go through the nuts and bolts of the grant, and I'm going to offer up opportunities for you to ask questions and things of that nature. And then I'm going to open up the space at the end for even more questions after you listen to James and Peggy and myself. Okay, I'll hand it over to James.
Thank you. So many of you know ArtsBuild has been around here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County for about 54 years at this point. Most people know us as a grant maker to the arts, and we do grants to artists and arts organizations. I think somebody is still unmuted, but we do advocacy work. So we advocate for arts funding at the local, state, and sometimes national levels. We work in arts education a lot with helping students have arts experiences, K-5 especially, in different arts experiences throughout the year. And we do leadership development programs which connect people to the arts and help to grow and kind of specialize in their passion for arts work in our community. And some of those you might have heard of are Tech Goes Home for the Arts, the Holmberg Arts Leadership Institute. And I promise y'all that's not me beeping. But we encourage you to visit our website, check out the work that we do. And Melissa, we can go to the next slide. So locally, the arts and our arts and culture sector has a huge impact on our local economy here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County. It represents about $172 million in economic activity each year, 6,300 full-time equivalent jobs, and over $7 million in local government tax revenue generated through arts and culture nonprofits and activities right here in Chattanooga. And these statistics come from the Americans for the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study number 5. Many of you might know that we, ArtsBuild and the Tennessee Arts Commission, are working now with Americans for the Arts to complete another local survey, the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study number 6. So we will have updated information related to these numbers sometime this summer to be able to share with the community. All right, next slide. So why Artists Works? This program is a direct response to the loss of audiences, jobs, and patrons experienced by our region's arts industry due to the pandemic. And next. And what many of you might not know is that this project, a few years ago when we initiated it, the partners were city government, Southeast Development District, and ArtsBuild. We initiated this project and it was inspired by the WPA era, the Works Progress era. I think I got muted too. It was inspired by the WPA era Artist Works programs, which put artists to work in communities as our country was coming out of the Depression. So our goal is to put artists to work in Hamilton County and Chattanooga as we continue to come out of the pandemic and the recovery from the pandemic. And Melissa is going to share with you how this program works, how it supports artists in our local economy and arts organizations here in Chattanooga. So I think that is it, Melissa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Move it forward. So I would like to introduce Peggy Douglas. She is a playwright and so much more in her world. And she was a previous recipient for her production of Steel Toes and Hired Hand, and we invited her here today to talk about the production and the experience of applying and being an Artist Work Grant recipient. So I'll hand it over to Peggy. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa and James. It's an honor to be here, and hi, everybody. Let's see, I applied for the Artist Work Grant for 2021, and we were still in the midst of the pandemic. So what I hoped to do was write a monologue play. I like to write about unsung heroes, I call them, in Chattanooga. So this play was about mill workers, mine workers, steel mill workers, and domestics in the 1950s in Chattanooga. Because of the pandemic, I knew that I was going to have to offer the play outside, and I wanted to employ as many artists as possible. So I was able to write the play in the spring. And then we decided we would be able to hire 16 cast members in our cast. We hired a director and 2 assistant directors who were students at UTC. And we also hired 2 musicians and a sound and lights man. So we were able to pay all those people. And we couldn't have done it without the partners, because River City, ArtsBuild, both helped us find a place in the city of Chattanooga. So we were able to use Miller Park, and they didn't charge us for that, which was wonderful. So all the money could go to the artists. And I think that's important for ArtsBuild too, as well as the Tennessee Arts Commission. So we were able to get the venue for free. In terms of publicity, River City, the city of Chattanooga, ArtsBuild, all helped us with our promotions. So it was mostly social media. We didn't have to pay much for promotions. So again, we held it 3 nights, September of last year. And I think we had about 300 people total show up for that one weekend and got a lot of positive responses. And, you know, in community theater, we don't often get to pay the actors and the crew, but we were able to pay everybody with the funds that we got for this grant. I think that pretty much summarizes it, Melissa, unless anybody has any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Peggy. I remember, so this was before I was at ArtsBuild. I actually attended one of the performances with my family, and I know what I appreciated about it was, one, during the pandemic, I had an opportunity to experience community theater, and I knew the artists were being paid, and it was thrilling to see everybody on stage. And then now I work here, and many of those folks on stage I work with regularly, which is such an honor. So thank you, Peggy. And I will open it up. Do folks have questions for Peggy? You can unmute yourself and ask them. If it's about technical questions about the grant, I would hold those because I'll talk about the grant in further, but definitely if you have questions for Peggy, you're welcome to chime in.
Hey, Peggy, I had a question. How long did it take for you to write your piece?
Oh, it really probably took me a year. I've been working on it. And I also should say I interviewed people from Chattanooga that actually worked in the 1950s. So I was able to get a lot of personal kind of oral history. And then I converted those into poetic monologues. So each actor, and that was another thing, because of the pandemic, we didn't want to have the actors close in together. So because it was a monologue play, as you can see in the slide, the actors were able to go up individually and perform their monologue. And then we had a historical reference behind them.
Awesome. Is there any other questions for Peggy?
I have a quick one. This is phenomenal and totally like missed my radar last fall. And I'm wondering if you're gonna revive it anywhere. Thank you.
Thanks for asking. I'm so glad you did, because we have another project with ArtsBuild that's coming up December 1st. So this past year, my partner, Francis McDonald, and I have worked with people from Silverdale Detention Center and the Mental Health Court to collect their stories and their art. So on December 1st, we'll have a reception at ArtsBuild from 5 to 7 p.m. And you can meet the participants. And also we're going to have actors act out their stories for them and for the audience. And you'll be able to see all of their art displayed. They're just amazing artists. So thanks for asking, Mary.
Peggy, I had a question.
Hi, Peggy. This may be, thanks for sharing, and this may be more of a nuts and bolts question, but I was interested in how you got the design work done, and you mentioned your partnership with the city and stuff, and so I'm interested in those connections and how you were able to utilize the free space and the advertising online, and exactly how that partnership worked out.
Well, I actually paid UTC students to do it. So as you see in the slide, the picture of the Reed House behind ETN, that came from the History Society. They gave us all of their pics and didn't charge us at all. And then I had a student match the photos with the monologue. So, and the director is a UTC theater professor. So, you know, and I also teach at UTC. So we were able to just anywhere you can, people really want to help. So I just ask anybody, and I'm not ashamed. all they can say is no.
Awesome. James, did you have a question as well?
Yeah, I put it in the chat box. I thought Peggy used to have a video version of Steel Toes and Hard Hands on YouTube. Because I know someone said they would like to see it.
Okay, should I send it to the link to Melissa?
That would be great, because I'll do a follow-up email to everyone if you feel good about that, for sure.
I'll also say, if anybody's interested, WUTC also does an audio, and they're very interested in storytelling and plays for the radio. So they were able to tape it all for us at no charge.
Great. We'll move forward unless there's a final question for Peggy.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Peggy. We really appreciate you and all you do for arts and culture in Chattanooga.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll now get in kind of the nuts and bolts of the grant. You're welcome to put questions in chat. I feel like James is overseeing them. It's hard for me to see the chat while talking, but I will check at the end just in case any gets missed, and I'll open it up at the end for questions as well. So kind of the timeline of artist work is it's going to open up this coming Monday, the 7th, around 2 p.m. And what that means is you jump on our website, go to our grants portal, you'll see artist work there. You'll be able to log in. If you haven't created a profile yet, it'll ask you to do so. And then I'll zip you right into the application. It will be open until January 9th, Monday, January 9th. And so that's about 10 weeks open. We were trying to straddling the holidays because we know things get really busy and things of that nature. We did not want it to end before the holidays because that was really crunch time, and we want to give you time to develop your projects. One nice thing that we're able to do here at ArtsBuild, so not only are we grant makers and push forward money into Hamilton County, we also like to support and mentor artists when they write their grants, because we recognize that not everyone is a grant writer. This might be your first grant, and it might be your 100th grant. Either way, we're willing to support you in the process. We do ask that if you want one of our ArtsBuild staff, likely myself, to look over your draft application before you submit it, is to shoot me an email by December 28th at, I feel like I put 5 p.m. Nope, I put 11:59. So at some point that day, shoot me an email or before and say, hey, can you take a gander at my draft? I'll give you some feedback. You're welcome to use the feedback, leave the feedback that you don't want. And then that way you can submit with another set of eyes looking at it. One thing about our grant system is it has this ability, you can still submit your application after the deadline, which is, I don't particularly appreciate that aspect of it because it's confusing to folks. Just know that when you submit, there is a time stamp on there that says the date and the time. So if you submit after the deadline, we will not review your application. I'm trying to change that element of our grant portal. Right now is still a thing, and so just know that, be very aware of your day, your time, so that you submit it before the deadline. If you have any challenges in that, you're always welcome to email me or call me. We'll work through it. It's going to be fun. And then grant award notifications go out in early February. So, and how that'll work is we'll contact you that you're awarded grant funding, and your grant funding goes from that award date to 1 year later. So it's basically all of February 2023 through January 2024. So who's eligible? So the reason for the grant is to support artists, getting them back to work, stimulate the economy of artists. And so artists are welcome to apply. Groups of artists are welcome to apply. Organizations are welcome to be a part of this grant program. They do need a lead artist or a lead group of artists at part of the grant. And everybody needs to be from Hamilton County. So the organization needs to be in Hamilton County. The artists need to be in Hamilton County because this funding does stay within the county. Who's not eligible is for-profit businesses and organizations applying alone. So, you know, it's very straightforward. If you have questions about that when you're applying, for sure, reach out. So in terms of artistic disciplines that are eligible to apply, it's our traditional ones, visual arts, fine craft, media, performance, literary, and literary arts. This grant is up to $10,000. We're giving out 9 grants, and there is no matching funds required for this. And as you'll see, this picture is of Ballet Esprit Arts Center. They did a project of where there was a 2-week dance intensive for 20 community dancers. So you'll see funding restrictions. It's pretty straightforward. You have 1 year to use the funding from the date that you're granted your award. Things that you cannot fund is permanent staff positions, existing artworks, projects and programs, you know, major capital improvements, things of that nature, school projects and things, you know, like that, fundraisers. If an artist or a group of artists have an idea to work with school children, reach out. There's a way to do that. It's just not curriculum-based projects that are being funded. And so grant expenses and activities. So 75% of the project budget needs to stay within Hamilton County. This grant can pay for artist fees and organizational fees, supplies and equipment, transportation, rental fees, marketing, documentation, assessment tools. You can even, as long as it's no more than 10% of the budget, pay for a project manager fee. And then if your project does need general liability insurance, it's eligible to be part of the expense sheet. So it's a pretty wide spectrum of items that can be paid for in the grant. This list is not exhaustive. And so as you're writing your grant and you need to check in about an expense, you're welcome to shoot me an email, give me a call. So just some additional grant information. We're encouraging that projects and programs that are funded through this are free of charge to the community. You know, another goal of the grant is not only to support artists being paid, but also to expand arts and culture for the community. And so breaking down economic barriers for attendance. So we're asking that it's free community events because, you know, a big aspect of this grant is it's up to $10,000, but it has to end in a public performance or an exhibit. And if you have a question about like the definition of exhibit, we can talk about that because that's pretty expansive of what that can mean for this grant. You know, there's really, you know, straightforward, you know, documenting your project, assessing your project. You know, there will be a mid-year and end-of-year project reporting. We try to keep that really straightforward and streamlined so it's not tedious for you all, but that we can gather some information to improve the grant programs for next round of different things that we're doing, to see who was served through each of the projects and things of that nature. You'll see to your right, I think it's your right, I'm not good with left and right. Playful Evolving Monsters. They did community workshops, creating puppets, and did interactive performances. One was at Get Off the Grid Festival event, and you probably have seen them around town. They're fabulous. So when writing a grant, we really have some areas of encouragement, you know, taking time to really read through the guidelines, kind of soaking them in, sending me an email with any questions, doing that earlier in the process versus later, and kind of getting all your ducks in a row before you sit down and kind of go through all the questions. You know, of course, reach out to me before the end of day, December 28th, so that I have it on my queue to read and give feedback for your draft application so it can be submitted within the deadline. You know, one of the things is double checking your budget and making sure your narrative matches your expense and income sheet. So it, you know, it all makes sense. So when reviewers look at it, they can kind of see the full story, the written story or the video story, depending on how you choose to do your application, and the line item of your budget sheet, which is attached to the application. You know, and as always, do one quick last proofread before you submit. One of the things I just mentioned is our grant system has two ways in which you can submit an application. So you can either type out your questions if that feels best for you, but there's an option to do video. And so, you know, it's usually 2 to 3 minute window of answering the question. We've done that. We picked this grant program, this grant system for that reason, is to open up accessibility for writing grants. Not everybody's as keen on typing out long answers and things of that nature, but they're really great on video. And so we just wanted to have those options for folks. And as you're going through it, being a newer system, a lot of folks have applied through us before, but haven't through this system, and kind of the learning, the ins and outs on it, there's a learning curve. And so as you go through it, you know, as we keep saying, just reach out to us. I'll walk you through it. You're even welcome to visit me here at ArtsBuild, and I'll kind of take you through it. It's very straightforward in a lot of ways, but the video aspect, sometimes people get confused on, you know, where they do that and how to do that. And I welcome y'all here to see me in action doing that. So this, you know, I just wanted to throw up the scoring criteria for the grant. It's very straightforward. You know, does it provide stimulus for artists and groups of artists? Does it provide high quality arts and culture for the community? Have you demonstrated that you have the capacity to follow through on the project? Is the budget realistic? Do you have plans for documentation and assessment and things of that nature? And then at the end, so what happens is you submit your application. I send you an email and say, great, you've submitted, and we look forward to reviewing your application. By we, it's not me, it's not a staff member at ArtsBuild, it's a group of community members who have committed to reading and scoring applications and making funding decisions. And I support them through that, but they do make the final decision as community members and ArtsBuild board members. And then there will be a panel meeting where, but we're going to determine what that looks like based on the number of applicants. In the years past, this has been a very competitive grant with lots of applications, and so we're curious as, you know, where we're at this year. We expect it to be competitive still. So if you have questions about that, you're welcome to ask me. See what else we have going on. Benefits of applying. There's a lot of benefits of applying to an ArtsBuild grant. One is you potentially could get really great funding, right? And do a phenomenal project. The other is you've written a grant that allows you to also apply for other opportunities, whether it's with us or outside of us, you know, other grants or opportunity fellowships or things of that nature. It helps you to create an artist statement and a portfolio if you haven't reached that point in your artistic endeavors. You become part of the ArtsBuild network, where we're able to support you in this current endeavor and future endeavors. So yeah. Great. I think I talked really fast. So I'm going to open it up for questions, and so we can, you know, talk about more of the micro details that kind of arose as I was going through each of these slides. Do we have any questions? Maybe not.
I just wanted to ask, Melissa, I just wanted to make sure. So, as far as like performance art, did I hear that correctly? That like if we had a performance, then it would need to be a free performance. There would not be anything that could be ticketed. Is that correct?
That's what, yes.
Okay.
That's part of the guidelines for sure. And if you have, yes, for sure. So I know you do your performance arts through the ballet. Is that a ballet company?
Yeah. Yeah, through it's dance. Yeah. So we would have to have our entire, like if we were looking for our production to be funded through the grant, then our entire production would need to have all their performances would need to be ticketed, or
I can answer that. And because we had that come up last time. What we need is that the final production that you discussed in this grant needs to be free and open to the public. Some have used the grant to choreograph and build a production that then goes on to charge at other places. But one of the goals is, you know, putting artists to work, but also making sure that the money benefits the community. So you just need to end in a free production. What you do after that is up to you.
okay, perfect. Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you, James. I appreciate that clarification. No, so Samsung asked, what exactly are you all looking for? I've applied for the last 3 rounds and never gotten selected. I had an ArtsBuild staff view my grant and still didn't make it. I'd have to look at your grants. I can't see who you are, so you're welcome to email me at melissa.artsbuild.com, and I'll put it in the chat and we can look at your past grant and I can give you feedback.
I'll add too that we typically get about 66 to 67 and 70 applications for this grant. So and that means that a lot of people don't get it because we're only able to give away 9 or 10 each time. So it might not be about your project. It might be what projects you were up against. You know, every review committee is different and made up of different community members. So every time we offer this, it's kind of like a snapshot in time on so many different variables. But I would encourage you to apply for it again and see what happens. And you could apply for the same project that you did last time, as long as it's not completed or not been done at this point.
there was another comment in the chat that the person was saying, like, this point, she doesn't know even what questions to ask. And, you know, that is super valid because one, I've just presented so much information. You know, when the application goes live on Monday and you see the micro details of the guidelines and the questions, that's when you'll probably have all the, you know, the ability to form the questions. And so, you know, of course, reach out to me. We could set up a call. You can come in and talk with me about it. What other questions have arisen? So Rosaria is asking, is everything sent in as a PDF? So Rosario, it is actually through our grant system. It's very straightforward. You just answer it within that system. So you'll create an account and you'll type or do your video in that. And so, you know, some folks actually start, you know, in a Word document because that's easier for them to, you know, if they're typing it, to get their thoughts down and then transfer it over. But you can do it directly in the grant system, save it as you go.
Oh, okay. Just I asked because if I want to check with you, maybe it's better to have something like maybe in Word and then.
So I can see every, I can actually see in real time what everybody is doing through the system. So I can see every draft, I can see every submission and things like that. So it's probably easier for me to do it within the grant system. So I can message you within that system.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Melissa, I think you said something about there were some elements of like opening up, again, I'm talking performance art, but to like schools. And can you talk a little bit more about how that works? Or
yeah, and if a group of artists or an artist wanted to work with our young people, young folks in the school system, if they applied for a project to work with them, that would be an acceptable project. So they would, you know, coordinate with the school, you know, with a teacher for time and space and project ideas. So it's not the school system applying, it's the artists or a group of artists taking lead in that. And so they would be managing the grant. Did that help?
I think so. So we would go ahead and make a connection with a school and like a teacher at the school, and then like before we apply, like as we're applying, we would apply saying, okay, and I've met up with this teacher and this is our plan, kind of thing.
Yeah, so yeah, as an artist, we're connecting with the fourth graders at, you know, Woodmore Elementary. This is the project that as an artist, we are leading with this group of students. And so, yes. And you would have that all in place before you submit so that it's concrete and deliverable.
I think that Doors Open Jazz did that at one of the last rounds where they worked with students, taught them, did a camp, and then did a public performance that was open to anyone in the community as the final project.
And someone has asked if if an artist has gotten a grant in the past, are they eligible to apply for this grant? So yes, if you've applied and successfully completed a grant with us in the past, you're eligible to apply. Even if you are currently within a grant program of ours, let's say you are a racial equity grant recipient and you're, flowing through that grant project and you're doing that within the parameters, and so you're in good standing in terms of that program, you can still apply for this grant program as well. What other questions? Okay. I think we're probably good. It doesn't seem like anyone else has questions, and I feel like I've scanned the chat enough to kind of answer everyone's questions that have left one. What we'll do is I'll send a follow-up email with the link to this recording, with the link that Peggy has provided me, and also the guidelines to the grant. On Monday, everything goes live. As we've said, you're always welcome to reach out. I'm here available, James as well. So great. Well, thank you so much for jumping on this Zoom during your lunch hour. We appreciate all of you. There we go.